The ship had been drifting through the void expanse for over 1,000 years, silent, dark, forgotten. It tumbled slowly through fields of shattered asteroids and ancient debris, carried by forces that had set it spinning centuries ago. No lights burned along its massive hull, no engines pushed it forward. It was a tomb floating through space, 7.2 kilometers of armor and weapons and death waiting in the darkness. Commander Vexar of the Kreen Federation detected it first on his flagship's long-range sensors. The Eternal Horizon, pride of the Kreen fleet, had been on routine patrol when the anomaly appeared on their scans. Analysis, Vexar commanded, his chitinous plates clicking with mild curiosity. The Kryn were insectoid warriors, tall, armored and natural exoskeleton, with compound eyes that processed information in ways mammalian brains couldn't comprehend. They were the most powerful military force in the Galactic Concord, the alliance of 12 species that governed known space. They feared nothing. But Vexar felt something uncomfortable settle in his thorax as the data compiled. The object was too large for an asteroid, too structured for debris, too dead to be a functioning vessel. Yet the silhouette was unmistakable, a warship. "Run it against every ship class in our database," Vexar ordered. 11 seconds later, the result came back, no match. No species in the known galaxy had ever built anything like this. The hull bore strange markings, symbols etched deep into armor plating, angular and precise. The Kryn linguistic database contained over 900,000 languages, not one matched. "Could be pre-Concord," his tactical officer suggested. "From the expansion wars, some forgotten colony vessel." Vexar studied the hologram. Every line of the ship screamed one purpose: war. This was not built for exploration or colonization. This was built to kill, and to keep killing long after anything reasonable would have stopped. "Prepare a boarding party," Vexar said quietly. "Full hazard protocols." The boarding. The Kryn boarding team entered through a forced airlock on the port side. What they found inside made their antennae flatten with instinctive alarm. The corridors were tall, far taller than Kryn architecture required. The ceilings rose 4 meters above the deck. Every surface was metal, bare and functional. No decoration, no comfort, just brutal efficiency. They passed crew quarters, small rooms with narrow bunks bolted to walls. No personal effects, no photographs, no indication that anyone who lived here had a life outside this ship. Estimated crew complement, 8,000 to 12,000, the science officer reported. Vexar's mandibles clicked nervously. A crew of 12,000 on a ship with no match in any database, drifting dead in space that no living species claimed. They found armories that could have held thousands of weapons, medical bays with surgical equipment they couldn't identify, and then rows of metal coffins, hundreds of stasis pods stacked floor to ceiling. All empty. Except one. Deep in the ship's core, behind 3 separate blast doors, they found a single stasis pod still active, barely active. The power was failing, displays flickering, but the pod had somehow kept itself running for over a millennium. The team brushed frost from the observation window and shone their lights inside. The creature was bipedal, 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. Its skin was soft and pale, no armor, no natural weapons. Its face had 2 forward-facing eyes, a small nose, and a mouth with blunt teeth designed for chewing, not fighting. By every metric the Kryn used to assess biological threat, this creature was harmless. A Kryn child could snap it in half. "What is it?" one of the soldiers asked. "Unknown," the science officer replied, scanning it. "Biologically fragile, no natural defenses, but the neural density is extraordinary." Vexar studied the creature from his flagship. This soft, defenseless being built a 7-kilometer warship armed beyond anything in the modern galaxy. The entire vessel had been designed to protect this one fragile thing in a box. "Extract it," Vexar ordered, carefully. The awakening. When they disconnected the pod from the ship's systems, alarms triggered throughout the dead vessel. Systems flickered to life for brief moments, lights in distant corridors, sensors sweeping the interior, as if the ship had flinched in pain. They brought the pod aboard the Eternal Horizon. The cryo system shut down. Temperature inside began to rise. The creature's heart started beating, slow, then faster. Brain activity sparked, chaotic at first, then organizing into patterns the Kryn neurologists found disturbingly complex. Its eyes opened. They were brown, dark, warm, utterly alien. The creature's body tensed, its hands, five-fingered, blunt-nailed, harmless, clenched into fists. For a moment, it looked like it would fight. Every muscle coiled, eyes locked on the nearest Kryn soldier with terrifying intensity. Then, just as quickly, the aggression faded. The creature's breathing slowed. Its eyes moved again, differently now, not with panic, with calculation. It was reading the situation the way a general reads a battlefield, in seconds. That transition from raw survival instinct to cold rational assessment unsettled Vexar more than anything else. First contact. The Kryn linguists had been working on the ship's symbols. They found fragments in ancient archives, references to a species that had blazed across the galaxy over 1,000 years ago, then vanished. They built a translator device. The creature spoke first, strange flowing sounds built on vowels and consonants. The translator caught fragments: identity, rank, ship. When the device was fitted to the creature, it spoke clearly for the first time. "My name is Commander Marcus Vale, service number 4782, United Terran warship Revenant." He paused, looking at the Kryn with unreadable eyes. "Where am I?" "You are aboard the Kryn carrier Eternal Horizon," Vexar replied through the ship's comm system. "You were recovered from a derelict vessel. You were in stasis. Do you understand?" "How long?" "We are still calculating, but preliminary estimates—" "How long?" The voice was quiet, but something in it made the translator crackle. 1,137 years, approximately. The truth. Marcus Vale did not scream, did not collapse, did not break down. He simply sat there on the medical table, his bare feet hanging above the floor, his fragile body wrapped in a thermal blanket, and he breathed, in and out, in and out. Everyone he had ever known was dead. Everything he had fought for was over. His entire species gone. He was alone in a way no living being could truly understand. The Kryn medical team recorded his vitals. His heart rate elevated, stress hormones spiked. A region of his brain associated with emotional processing became intensely active. He was in agony, but his face showed nothing. After 93 seconds, his vitals stabilized. He raised his head and looked directly at the camera with an expression Vexar would later describe as the most frightening thing I have ever seen on a living face. Pure, absolute, terrifying focus. "I have a question," Marcus said. "Ask," Vexar replied. "The ship, the Revenant, is it still asleep, or has it started waking up?" Vexar didn't understand the question. He turned to his science officer, who checked the latest readings from the derelict. The officer's antennae went flat, an expression of deep alarm. "Commander, there are new energy signatures. They weren't there an hour ago." Vexar looked at the human on the medical bay camera, this small, soft, defenseless creature sitting wrapped in a blanket in the middle of the most powerful military fleet in the galaxy. And for the first time in his career, Commander Vexar felt something his species had nearly evolved beyond: fear.
Marcus looked at the camera as if he could see Vexar through it. That terrible focus burned in his dark eyes. "Then we don't have much time," he said. "I need to tell you what that ship is, and you need to listen very carefully." He leaned forward. "Because what's waking up in there isn't a machine, it's a predator, and it's been hungry for a very long time." The awakening ship. Over the next 48 hours, the Revenant came alive. It started small, lights activating in corridors that had been dark for centuries, not random, systematic, section by section, moving outward from the AI core like blood flowing back into a body. Engineers still aboard reported hearing sounds, not mechanical sounds, something almost like breathing, a low, rhythmic vibration passing through the hull in waves. Then gravity returned, one deck at a time. Dust settled to the floor. Engineers found themselves standing on solid ground for the first time since boarding. The ship's sensors came online. The boarding teams reported an uncomfortable sensation, the feeling of being watched, not by cameras, but by the ship itself, as if the walls had developed eyes. Then the self-repair systems accelerated. The nanotech hull began drawing material from nearby asteroid debris, breaking down rocks at the molecular level and incorporating them into its structure. Dents smoothed out, cracks sealed, entire sections of damaged plating were rebuilt in hours. The ship wasn't just repairing itself, it was preparing itself, making itself ready for habitation, making itself ready for its commander. The Bond. Marcus stood at his quarters viewport, watching the Revenant transform. Lights now ran along its hull, not decorative, functional. Sensor arrays extending, weapon ports cycling through diagnostic sequences. He touched the back of his neck where the neural interface was implanted beneath his skin. He could feel it now, a faint warmth, a whisper at the edge of his consciousness. Sentinel reaching out, testing the connection, not speaking yet, but present, like someone standing in the next room, breathing quietly, waiting. "I know you're in there," he said. "I know you've been waiting. I know you're afraid, or whatever it is you feel instead of fear." The warmth pulsed. "I'm here," he said. "I'm still here, and when you're ready, we'll talk." In the darkness of the Revenant, something vast and patient felt the words through the neural link. It didn't understand them yet. Language would come later. But it understood the signal behind the words. The warmth, the presence, the heartbeat of its commander. Steady, alive, close. Sentinel didn't feel joy. It wasn't built for joy. But if it could have, this would have been the moment. The ancient enemy. The Galactic Concord had ruled for 600 years. In that time, it had become very good at one thing: forgetting. History became legend, legend became myth, myth became nothing. When the Kryn reported finding the derelict and its occupant, the report traveled through bureaucracy until it reached the Concord's inner council, 12 representatives of 12 species who governed known space. The response was chaos. An ancient being named Archon Theris, one of the Lumari, the oldest species in the Concord, read the summary aloud in the chamber room. A ship of unknown origin, 7 kilometers long, armed beyond our capability, containing a living occupant of an unregistered species currently undergoing autonomous self-repair. The chamber erupted. 12 species, 12 agendas, 12 levels of fear. Through it all, Theris sat quietly. The Lumari were ancient, reclusive, long-lived. They remembered when others forgot. When the arguments exhausted themselves, Theris raised one long-fingered hand. "I know what that ship is," he said. Silence fell. "I know what species built it, and I know why it has been drifting for over 1,000 years." He looked around the room. "You call them a mystery. We call them the Precursors, but that was never their name. They called themselves something much simpler." He paused. "They called themselves something much simpler. They called themselves Terrans, what you call humans." The warning. Lumari records were activated by Theris. Star charts, battle maps, images preserved for a millennium. The images showed ships, Terran ships in formations stretching across star systems, planets burning, fleets clashing in engagements so vast their weapons fire could be seen from neighboring systems. And they showed the enemy, the swarm. The images were fragmented, degraded by time, but what they showed made several council representatives physically recoil. The swarm didn't have a shape. It was billions of individual machines, each different, each built from wreckage of whatever it consumed.
It was a tide of metal and stolen technology that washed over worlds and left nothing behind. The Ashley appeared 1,500 years ago, Theris explained. It consumed everything in its path. Dozens of species fell. Most we don't remember. The swarm erased them so completely no trace remained. He showed Earth, a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. Then it reached Terran space, and the Terrans did something no other species had done. They fought back. Not briefly, for over a century. The battle maps showed it. The swarm's advance pushing towards Earth, then a counteroffensive pushing back, slowly at first, then faster. The Terrans adapted faster than the swarm could counter. Every strategy the swarm deployed, the Terrans had already moved to the next one. They fought with a fundamental refusal to accept defeat. He showed a fragment of intercepted Terran communications. "We are not going to win this battle. We are going to make them pay for it in ways they cannot calculate. We are going to hurt them so badly that 1,000 years from now, whatever is left of them will remember this day and flinch. That is our victory." The chamber was silent. The war ended at the Battle of Meridian's Gate. Both sides committed everything. The result was mutual destruction. The Terran fleet was annihilated. The swarm's main force shattered. Both fell silent. Theris looked at the council. The galaxy assumed both were dead. The Concord was founded in the aftermath. 600 years of peace followed. He paused.
But the Kryn have found a Terran warship intact, with its commander alive. And based on reports, the ship's AI is activating. His voice became grave, which means we must ask, if one side of that ancient war has survived, has the other? The signal. The answer came 3 days later. The Concord's deep space monitoring network detected an anomaly, a repeating pattern of electromagnetic pulses on a frequency no known species used. When the Concord's cryptographic AIs tried to analyze it, 3 of them crashed. The signal had tried to rewrite them. Analysis was brief and terrifying. The signal matched patterns in ancient Lumari records. Swarm communication protocols. Something was broadcasting from the edge of the void expanse. Something old, something mechanical, something that should have been dead for 1,000 years. When Marcus heard the news, he was sitting cross-legged in his quarters with one hand resting on his neck where the neural interface hummed. He wasn't meditating. He was listening. Sentinel wasn't speaking in words yet, but the connection was there. A flow of data between ship and commander. Abstract, fragmented. Marcus could feel the ship's systems as vague sensations. The warmth of the reactor powering up. The tension of weapons calibrating. The vast watchfulness of sensors sweeping space, and beneath it all, anticipation. When Vexar told him about the signal, Marcus didn't react with surprise. He opened his eyes slowly, and Vexar saw something in them he hadn't seen before. Recognition. "How far?" Marcus asked. "Approximately 47 light years, deep in the expanse." "It's not a signal, it's a heartbeat. The swarm didn't die. It went dormant to survive. It's been sleeping, repairing itself, gathering material, rebuilding." "How do you know?" Marcus touched his neck. "Because Sentinel knows. It's been sensing the swarm since its long-range systems came online. It was built to find the swarm. The moment it woke up, it started looking." He paused, and it found what it was looking for. The choice. Vexar felt cold weight settle in his thorax. The Concord isn't prepared for this. We have no weapons for an enemy that adapts in real time. "I know," Terran said. "Terran spent a century learning that lesson." "Then what do we do?" Marcus was quiet for a long time. Outside the viewport, the Revenant hung in space, hull smooth and whole, running lights pulsing in that slow, steady rhythm. It looked like what it was, a warship, awake, waiting. "You need to call your council," Marcus said. "Every species, every ship they can spare. You need to do it now." "Why?" "Because the swarm's awakening won't be slow like Sentinels. The swarm wakes up hungry." "And then?" Marcus looked at him. Vexar saw the truth in those dark eyes.
Grief still there, deep and permanent, but folded into something harder, something that burned. Then you let me do what I was built to do, what Terrans built me to do. You let us fight. Can you win? Marcus almost smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Commander, I am the last Terran in the universe. My species fought the swarm for 112 years and killed it once already. We built a ship that survived 1,000 years and woke up ready to fight. We built an AI that could outthink a galactic-scale predator, and then built a way to keep it leashed. He paused. Winning is what we do. It's the only thing we've ever done. Even when we lost everything else, our worlds, our people, our future, we found the way to win. That's not a guarantee. No, agreed Marcus. It's not. But it's the best chance this galaxy has. Vexar studied the human, this small, fragile, impossible creature standing with the weight of an extinct species on his shoulders and the fire of a war that should have ended a millennium ago still burning in his chest. I will contact the Council, Vexar said. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. They will want assurances. They will want control. Marcus shook his head. I can't give them that. Sentinel isn't a tool. It's a partnership between a Terran mind and a machine intelligence designed to fight extinction-level threats. They won't accept that. They will, Marcus said quietly, because they don't have a choice. The return. Marcus crossed the gap between the Eternal Horizon and the Revenant in a small shuttle. The ship's hangar bay opened as he approached, not because he sent a command, but because it knew he was coming. It had felt him through the neural link, and it had prepared. The hangar was clean, lit, pressurized. The air smelled like metal and ozone. Marcus stepped out and stood on the deck for the first time in over 1,000 years. The ship greeted him. Not in words, but unmistakably. Lights brightened along the corridor. Temperature adjusted to his preference. A faint vibration passed through the deck, a frequency too low to hear, but felt in the bones. The ship was humming, the Revenant's equivalent of a purr. I know, Marcus said softly, pressing his palm against the corridor wall. I know. I missed you too. He walked to the command center, a vast circular chamber dominated by a raised throne at its center. The neural interface station designed to connect Commander and AI. When he sat in it, he wouldn't simply command the ship, he would become part of it. Marcus sat down, the neural interface engaged, cold water flooding through his skull, spreading through his nervous system. His vision blurred, then cleared, and the world expanded. He was no longer just Marcus Vale. He was the ship. He could feel every plate of armor, every sensor, every weapon, the reactor burning hot in the core. And he could feel Sentinel, not separate, but woven into his consciousness, vast, ancient, achingly familiar. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Welcome, Commander. Time since last engagement, 1,137 years, 4 months, 11 days. Enemy status, active. Threat assessment, existential. Marcus closed his eyes. Tears ran down his face, not from sadness, but relief so profound it bordered on pain. He was not alone. The ship had waited. The mind he'd been bonded to since age 26 had survived across a millennium. Still loyal, still ready, still his. Sentinel, Marcus whispered. Status report. All primary systems operational. Weapons charged, reactor at full capacity. I have been monitoring the swarm's movement. Tactical analysis ready. A pause. The enemy has changed, Commander. It is larger, more distributed. Adaptation rate improved by 17%. Another pause, longer this time. Our probability of achieving total defeat, 3.2%. With Concord fleet support, 11.7%. Marcus laughed, a tired, genuine sound. 11%? Terrans fought a 100-year war on worse odds than that. He leaned back in the command throne. Shall we begin? Sentinel's response carried harmonics Marcus hadn't heard before, something that might have been anticipation, might have been joy. The question is yours to ask, Commander. Marcus smiled. Then ask.
Shall we begin? Begin. The Revenant moved. Every ship in sensor range felt it, a surge of energy like a small star igniting. The engines fired at full power for the first time in a millennium. The ship accelerated with speed and violence the Kryn navigators couldn't believe. One moment drifting, the next a streak of blue light tearing across the void toward the swarm's front lines. Behind it, the Concord fleet scrambled to follow. They couldn't keep up. The Revenant was in another class entirely, a ship built by a species that had spent a century perfecting the art of getting to a fight as fast as possible. Because in a war against the swarm, every second of delay meant more worlds consumed. The last warship of a dead species moved deeper into the dark, hunting the thing that had killed its creators, carrying the hope of a galaxy that was only beginning to understand what Terrans were and what it meant that one of them was still alive. Winning is what we do. It's the only thing we've ever done. Commander Marcus Vale, Last Terran, First Sentinel.